What is going on, Bucs fans? We are live after a little holiday break there. Here at the Parlay Podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. I'm your host, JC Allen. As always, we got a lot to get into. Bucs make the playoffs. We've got some coaching news, some GM news, what's going on, some hot commodities in Tampa Bay. We'll check in the injury report. May we see a battle of epic proportions that we've seen in the past on Sunday night between two heated rivals. We'll see. We'll get into that in the injury report as well, see how that's trending, and so much more. As always, here on Pirate Parlay on the Sick Podcast Network. We'll be back right after the break.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Pirate Parlay.
Battle intercepted, picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world.
The sickest Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. It's going to be sick.
We are back here on the other side of the break. I want to say Happy New Year to everybody. It's been a little bit since we've been on, but super excited to be back here talking to you fine people. Everyone in the comments, I see y'all. I appreciate y'all for sure. Yeah, where to start, right? What a week for the Buccaneers. Playoffs, NFC South champions for the fourth time, playoffs for the fifth time. This is looking like a dominant stretch here for the Bucs, need I say. It's been a while since they've been this successful. It was almost 20 years without a playoff streak there, and now five years in a row, consistent improvement, right? You back in the playoffs 2 years ago. You kind of back in a little bit. Could have handled your own in week 17, made it to week 18 this year. Again, you're week 18, but with a much better record, 10-7. So steady improvement from this team. The contributions they received from rookies and veterans and guys who were on the street, careers were pretty much over, bringing them in, and they're playing well too. Testament to Todd Bowles and his staff, but the Bucs are playoff bound. And they will be playing on Sunday Night Football under the lights against the Washington Commanders. Rematch of Week 1 matchup, which the Bucs ended up winning there. Commanders made it interesting at the end. A couple of Jaden Daniels touchdowns. But man, it's a good time to be a Bucs fan. Not just the win on Sunday, the icing on the cake. Mike Evans, 11 straight seasons, tying Jerry Rice with 1,000-yard seasons. Just incredible, making history. You could do it again next year. He's all by himself there, something that Jerry's never done. So, but let's look at this game a little bit here. We'll go back in time. Buccaneers, New Orleans. Bucs ended up winning 27-19. It was one of these games where you're like, oh, this is ugly. The Buccaneers did not score first, so they're trying to buck the trend right away. Outside of this game, anytime the Bucs have not scored first, they've lost this season. They've also lost once when they did score first, but very good team. But no, I mean, you're watching this game and you're like, oh, things are not going the way that you'd hope. You're down 16-6 going into half, and you're just hoping that the Bucs defense can do what they've done the last 4 weeks, which is almost shut out a team or hold them to minimal points while the offense finds its groove, because the offense was struggling. Those first 3 drives, I think Bucky Irving had just 2 rushing attempts. It wasn't really doing much. They took them kind of out of their element. Kudos to the Saints for having a good game plan. You know they weren't going to come in here laying down, even though they're not rivals with the Bucs. You know they weren't going to come in here and lay down. But the credit to the Bucs again. You know they've allowed 6 points in their last 4 games in the second half. 6 points. So they're making these adjustments. You want them to settle in. You need them to settle in going forward early on in the game and not let up points and then wait till the second half, because, I mean, it could be, too little too late at that point. But commend them for locking down when they needed to. Payne Durham scores a touchdown from Baker Mayfield, wide open in the back of the end zone. Payne now with 2 touchdowns in the last couple of weeks. 3 touchdowns, rather. Jalen McMillan scores another touchdown, and what a beautiful touchdown that was. The throw, the catch, everything about that touchdown was perfect. One of the best throws of the NFL this season. Just Baker flushed out of the pocket, scrambles to his right, somehow is able to, on the move, flip his hips towards Jalen McMillan follow through with the ball and just put it on a rope where only McMillan can get it. If it's a little bit inside, it's tipped or maybe picked. If it's a little outside, he's not getting his feet down. And then Jalen just with a concentration to get his hands on the ball, secure it, and tap that second foot down to take the lead at that point with, we're talking 5 minutes left in the game, and take that 2019 lead. And then once you're there, it's kind of like you're playing with fire a little bit there, because now that we got the lead, now it's about Mike Evans, and we got to get Mike Evans this record. And no one wants to be the quarterback. You look at some of the quarterbacks that got him the record. No one wants to be the quarterback that didn't get him the record, especially if you played as well as Baker Mayfield this year. So it turns into that, and they're dinking and dunking to Mike. He's making some 10-yard catches, 11-yard catches. They get down into the red zone. Baker's under pressure. He just sees Bucky out of the corner of his eye, flips the ball to him. Bucky runs in the end zone. I was right there in the press box with a perfect vantage down. Mike Evans, he sees Bucky cross the pylon, and he just goes, ah. You can tell he's like, damn, like I don't know. That might have been it. Crap. Of course, he goes and gives Bucky love because the most important thing is winning the football game. But you could tell he's like, shh, ah. And Baker said after that, the plan was to get Mike the ball. That's what we were trying to dial something up for Mike. And, Mike said it all week. Everyone said it, the number one priority is winning this game. They go up 27-19 and need a desperation stop from the defense if they're going to have any time left on the clock. There was a minute 51 seconds left on the clock, and man, the Bucs defense, they came through. Say what you want about them all season long, and it hasn't been great, but they came through when it mattered most. At first you got a little nervous there because New Orleans was doing something. The first pass, 11 yards. They're marching down the field. 3 consecutive first down plays. And then the Bucs defense steps up. Incomplete pass by Rattler. The defense was getting after them, really bringing it to them. Even with Kalijah Cansey, he's trying to add to that sack total. He jumped off sides, giving them a 3rd and 5 again. Misses the pass again. Go for it on 4th down. Miss it again. At that point, turnover on downs. 36 seconds left, and it's a walk off. Credit to Liam Coen. Credit to Todd Bowles specifically. For saying, no, we're gonna try to get him this. They go out, Baker, quick short pass. They move Mike in motion from one side to the other side in the slot. And why not every one of the Saints players just followed him? Like, they're not going to pass anybody else. If Mike's not open, they're just going to chuck it out of bounds and then take a knee or try it again. Like, why there is not a plan to just triple coverage Mike and jam him at the line and let him kind of do his thing. It'd be able to get open like that. I don't know what they were thinking. Maybe it's a straight hand Favre type of thing or Gastineau type of thing. But Mike Evans, Baker to Mike Evans, catch, quick turnaround, jets up the field for 9 yards, and boom! What a magical moment it was in the stadium. Fans, players, Mike himself, literally a walk-off 1,000-yard season from Mike Evans. He came to the sideline and just walked right into the back. He didn't stay for interviews. He didn't stay to dap anybody up after the game. He literally walked off the field. It was amazing. The fan reaction was amazing. The team reaction was amazing. And it's been amazing to see all the outpouring of everybody. J.J. Watt, LeBron James, so many different people reaching out and just congratulating Mike for an amazing season. And finally, Bucs fans giving him the credit he deserves, because we know it's been far too long since Mike Evans got the credit he's deserved. He's always been overlooked. He's always just done one thing: consistently produce 1,000 yards, no matter who his quarterback is. Another season with 11 plus touchdowns. I think that's the 7th. Like, he's that good. He's in the record books. everywhere you look, catches, touchdown receptions, yardage. He keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. And we had this debate: is he a top 10? Is he a top 5 wide receiver of all time? If he can continue to play like he's playing, he's going to just keep on climbing into that conversation. I think he probably is a top 10, somewhere between 7 and 10 right now. I think I have him. But man, hopefully something like that happens for Levante, right? Maybe it's the Super Bowl. Bucs get to the Super Bowl. Levante makes a walk-off interception, and then people start looking at Levante and give him the respect he deserves too. They started to, but still, he needs to be a first ballot too, because everything he's done in his career is here for it. So that's a little recap of the game, man. It was such a fun game to be at. It was nerve-wracking at times, but the emotional roller coaster and then the emotions at the end made it worth it. It was just, we are not allowed in the press box to cheer on either team at any point. It is told us multiple times throughout the game. I didn't care and nobody else cared. When Mike Evans got his 1,000, we were all clapping in there. It was great. The press box announcer who does the play-by-play, he goes, and it's a catch by, you guessed it, Mike Evans. And it was just, it was funny. And it was an awesome experience. And now the Bucs have punched their ticket. Commanders, as I mentioned, they're up next. It's going to be a very good game, I think. I think these two teams are pretty evenly matched. Two top 5 offenses. Their defenses, they both kind of can struggle in different areas. Commanders against the run, Bucs against the pass. So there's things that they can exploit with each other. The Bucs run defense has been phenomenal, but the Commanders run, their rushing attack has been phenomenal, mostly led by Jaden Daniels, who the Bucs are going to have a plan for. I can't wait for this game, even though it's a Sunday night football game, and I'm not a huge fan of those primetime games in my old age anymore. It's too late for me to stay up. I can't go to bed after the game. I got to go down and do pressers and this and that. I'm not home till like 3 o'clock in the morning after those games, up at work the next day. But I'm privileged to be able to do that. So I'm not going to complain about it because it's freaking awesome. But yeah, Commanders, I think, are going to be a great matchup. We'll get more into that matchup later in the week when we go behind enemy lines. I think we're going to get David Harrison back on here. He was on here early in the year and broke down. He does Locked On Commanders. We'll get him in here, give him the insight. He'll give us the insight on this team, how they've changed, how they've grown. We obviously know how the Bucs have changed and grown, right? No Chris Godwin, who had 8 catches for like 82 yards and a touchdown. Banged up. A lot of people got banged up in that game. You lost Bryce Young. Zion McCollum went out in that game. You lost Antoine Winfield Jr. after that game. A lot of people were beat up and banged up coming out of that game. Some people didn't make it out of that game. So it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, the Bucs have found their rhythm on offense at a much, efficient rate. They can run the ball. You look at Bucky Irving. He has the most missed tackles forced out of any running back in the league. And he ranks number 1 in almost every statistical category for a rookie as a 4th-round pick. He's been amazing. Rachaad White didn't touch the ball last week, but his pass protection was part of the reason why the Bucs won that game. There's a few plays that he doesn't make those, and it's not looking good. And then Sean Tucker got some run too. You got the running back room and the offensive line that's just cohesive unit. They move as one. They've been dominant over the last couple of weeks, and I think that's one way to really exploit this Commanders team. But we'll get into that. But that's how the run game is. I think is a focal point of this offense right now. You got Mike Evans, and it's always going to be a big thing. And obviously, tight ends are stepping up. Devin Culp, Payne Durham, Kate Otten could be back. You got J-Mac stepping up too. So you've got tons of pieces on this offense, and you should be able to move the ball pretty well. And that's all evolved based off you get that run game going. There's so much you can do, so much things, especially with that quick passing game, those screen games, those crossers. Just hold that linebacker for a second on that play action, and things happen, and things are special. And Baker, I think, is playing some of his best ball of his career too right now as well. He was phenomenal in that game. Obviously had an interception, but otherwise I feel like he was really, really good when he needed to be, running all over the place. 68 yards, career high, first downs, just really good, making plays on the move like that McMillan. It's going to be a fun game. Evenly matched, I think. I don't think when you look at especially the NFC side, actually, I think the entire playoffs, there's not a team in this playoffs that has under 10 wins. So this is going to be a stacked, loaded competitive playoffs. I'm super excited for it, and I can't wait to see what the Bucs come out with, what they are preparing. I know we're going to be in the red jerseys, and if I'm a betting man, I would think there'll be a Metallica red out at some point, where the whole stadium gets done in red lights, and Metallica's playing, courtesy of Jason Light, Jason Light not only is one of the best GMs in football, he's also has no problems with calling people out. After the game, he retweeted back at Cam Jordan when he said, "I guess the Bucs after Brady left, he said the Bucs will be where I guess the Bucs have always been." And he tweeted him out and said, "Happy to still be where we are." And then Yaya Diaby, who I was going to get into, but we'll get into it now because I'm talking about him. He won NFC Defensive Player of the Week. He was phenomenal. 4 tackles, 4 loss, sack, 4 quarterback hits. He was phenomenal. Again, the pressures have been there. He's top 10 in pressures in the NFL for the season. It just hasn't been able to finish. Guys, when teams are playing bowl specifically and defenses like this, they know they got to get the ball out quick. The ball's coming out quick because pressure's coming. So it's like a double-edged sword. It limits some of the guys' opportunities, but the pressures have been there, and you saw what he was able to do last week. But one NFC defensive player of the year. PFF graded him as a bottom 5 player for the Bucs this week. Bottom 5. Jason Light said, he retweets it, says NFC Defensive Player of the Week at PFF. He's great with what he does. How he engages fans and how he's not afraid to take a shot when he wants to. I love that about him. So let me jump into some of the comments here because I haven't heard from you guys for a while, and I missed you. You guys are fam. So let me check into you guys. Richard, Berger, and Rock. What's going on, guys? Rock, 5 years in a row. That's a dangerous, experienced playoff team. That's one thing too. While there's players on this team for the Commanders that have experience, of the Bobby Wagners and some of these other guys, there's extensive playoff. I was talking to some of the guys before, like JTS and Yaya and some of these guys, Cody, Luke. It's like they were born into the playoffs. I've known it by them. A little pain there. But they don't know anything but playoffs. They don't know anything but NFC South crowns. I mean, Tristan knows, and Antoine, they don't know anything about playoffs. They didn't win the South this time. They had to go on the road and be the wild card teams, but this team is playoff tested. They know what it's like. They know what this experience is like. They know what to prepare for. They know the noise. They know can I have tickets? They know blah, 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 all this. They've been through this, except for the rookies. They've been through this. They know what to do. And that's a huge leg up too. You can't cross off playoff experience and, what it's about and win or go home and what that really means if you haven't been there. And, a lot of these guys on the Commanders haven't been there. So, or haven't had success there. So yeah, it's a huge thing, Rock. I appreciate it. I'm not sure if that's Rock Riley. If it is, Rock, what's up? But PJ asks, is the Buccaneers franchise in its heyday right now? 5 years in a row, the playoffs, 4 straight division titles. I say yes. I'll ask you guys in the comments. Go ahead and tell me what you think too. I'm not huge into the lore of the Buccaneers. I still got to brush up a little bit more on the history, but I know that late 90s run was pretty special. Couple NFC championship games, obviously bounced by the Eagles before eventually winning it all. But I have to say, there's a lot of guys on those teams that were homegrown, but there are also a lot of guys who were brought in. A little bit of both. I would say this is probably the heyday right now. If you're looking back in 40 years, 30 years, which do you remember? I want to say more fondly, or when you're someone who's not even alive yet. Let's say someone who's 40 years down the line, someone who's 20 is looking at this and is like, wow, that was a really good stretch by the Bucs there. I think this would be it. Because of Tom Brady, obviously, a little bit. You had the GOAT playing for you. He's still going to be the GOAT in 40 years, I bet you. Just the way they did it, COVID, this is such a weird year. The sustained success they've had in between, a coaching change, and I know there was one before too. Just the ability to just kind of draft and bring these guys up. I think I would say yes. I would say yes. What are you guys saying mostly? Yeah, this run is equally impressive as the other one. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty good. No one ever picks us to win the division. Richard said, "What up, Bud Cannabis? Acknowledge me. Appreciate you." No, they don't. And I mean, Bucs are always going to get overshadowed. It's just what it is. In 4 years here, I've already learned that or 5 years now, 5 seasons. Wow, it's crazy. Yeah, the Bucs don't get credit for nothing. They don't get credit for nothing. They go undefeated, and people would still be like, "Well," they rarely get credit, and when they do, it's because people really pay attention. Ball knowers pay attention. Peter Schrager is a ball knower. Like, that's what he is. He pays attention, not just to the headlines, not just to the names. That's why Bucky Irving was called out multiple times. Liam Coen, Todd Bowles, like, he pays attention to these. Yaya Diaby was his guy. O'Keefe was his guy. Like, he pays attention. He's not just the top of the roster starter guy, kind of depth chart. He pays attention, and that's why I think he's a good. He does a great job, kind of cheering on the Bucs. Dan Orlovsky does too. He's a good Bucs cheerleader as well. And obviously GMAC, Gerald McCoy is always going to have the Bucs. Always going to have the Bucs back. Panther fan, what's up, my man? Damn, must feel nice to be in the playoffs. You'll be there soon. And I bet the Bucs fans in here will say, like, that Carolina team showed a lot of heart this year. Like, that Carolina team, you could see, especially towards the end, that run that they had. I know they lost a couple games. They lost to the Cowboys and they lost to the Bucs, obviously. But they beat the Falcons. Like, they took the Chiefs to the wire. They took the Eagles to a drop touchdown pass in the end zone. They won like 3 or 4 games out of their last 7. Like, they're going to be good in a good time. Like, Dave Canales is the reason why people didn't want to lose Dave Canales last year, because he's a good coach and he's going to get this team right. He's already turned around the culture, the chemistry, and he's got Bryce Young playing like a good quarterback. Now they just need to load up on pieces on the offense, on the defense. They can do that. It's going to take a couple years and they'll be fine. Richard says Baker's low-key hockey player got into a fight to hype up the rest of the team. That was hilarious. I immediately looked for Luke. I was like, where's Luke? He's going to get in trouble. Like, where's Luke? Yeah, it was pretty funny. I went up to Luke after the game. I was like, who held you back? He's like, what do you mean? I was like, when Baker got in that fight, he's like, oh, I knew if I got in there. He's like, I just stayed out of it. I knew if I got in there, there'd be fisticuffs thrown. I was like, that's great. That's awesome. But yeah, I mean, Baker, he's not afraid. That's why they call him an offensive lineman in a quarterback's body. He's not afraid to he's not afraid to rough up or take a hit or put his body on the line or get things started for the team to rally behind him. And they do. Defensive too. Bowles talked about it. Something like that. Defense says, hey, he's playing like that. Why the hell are we playing like that? So it's great. Richard says some Panthers talk there. Richard says Bucky's TD was the biggest mix of emotions I've ever had for a Bucs TD. It was, right? It really was, because you're like, again, I'm more of a fan of the people than the team. And you know how important that is for Mike. And I think that was Bucky's first receiving touchdown of the season too. I'm pretty sure that was his first and only receiving touchdown of the season. So like, you're happy for both of them. You're happy for the Bucs, and then you're like, oh, wait a second. Like, there's not enough time. No way he's not going to get this. But hey, like I said, they did what they had to do. Thank goodness there was 1:51 left on the clock and not less than that. Yeah, the defense gave 3 first downs back to back. Rock says the defense damn near blew it. The Saints got a couple of first downs back to back to back. So let's see what else. A legendary moment. Absolutely. Rock says that defense would have not gotten that ball back. The football gods probably would have brung in Jared Goff or Darnold. And that would not have been fun. Although I think the Bucs can beat both of those teams. I don't think there's any team in the playoffs for the NFC side that I don't think the Bucs can be competitive with. I don't look at anyone and say that's a blowout. Well, that's because if you look at it and the likely path, let's just say the Bucs the likely path for the Bucs is going to be rematches of the 3 teams that they beat in the NFC this year. It's going to be the Commanders, it's going to be then the Eagles, and then the Lions. If things happen the way people think they're going to happen, that would be the path on the road for the second 2. But they've beaten both of those teams before. They've beaten the Commanders before. Vikings, they got Jay Jetta and Addison and Hawkinson. That might be a tough matchup. But I think that the Bucs can beat any of these teams in the playoffs. On the NFC side, AFC side gets a little tricky. Patrick Mahomes is he's a genie, and Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, like those. I think those will be tough games. But yeah, Panda says I can't wait to watch Marshawn and Evans go at it. It's gonna go at it again. It's gonna be funny. I brought that up a little bit. I'll touch on that in a little bit here once I get into the injury report. But yeah. A lot of people forgot that Marshawn Lattimore got traded to the Commanders at the deadline, so we could be in for a show here. Marshawn getting a possessed Mike Evans. He's a demon right now. Mike Dunn snapped, and he got a few disciples on the board. That's great. Richard says, JC, favorite Bucs moment for 2024 regular season. I guess if you're taking out the Mike Evans, because I think that and securing the South, I think those two go hand in hand. What would I say would be my favorite moment of the season from this Bucs team? That's a good question. Let me think on that, and I'll come back to it because I don't want to rush that answer because there's been a lot of good moments. Jared, he's full of confidence. I think we beat Washington fairly easily as long as we bring everything from the first snap, bring energy from the first snap. That you got to. That's the thing. You have to bring the energy. You have to go out there. You got to put points on the board. This is a good scoring offense. I'll tell you exactly what they're doing on offense right now, scoring more points than the Buccaneers, 28.8 points per game. Bucs are right behind them in 5th place. They're in 4th at 28.5. This team can score points. They can score points. And again, on the ground, they're better than the Bucs too. 152.7 yards per game. They got 23 touchdowns on the ground this season compared to the Bucs 15. Bucs are 7th in running the ball. Finished 7th, 143.6. Now, passing offense, the Bucs are much better. They're 3rd overall, 246 a game. Commanders are 16th, 220. It's not like they're super far behind. And that's to be expected with a rookie quarterback who's also a running quarterback. And again, right there, Commanders are 5th overall total offense. Buccaneers are 3rd. It's gonna be make for an interesting game for sure. Bucs got to bring the energy. They got to score. They got to get it moving early on. If they slow down, if there's a lull, like you can't have those in the playoffs. You got away with them in some games. Cannot have those in the playoffs. You got to be on your A game. And if you're not going to be, then teams are going to take advantage of it. And Washington is a team that can take advantage of it. You look at Washington's done just in the last 2 weeks, a late come from behind win to beat the Cowboys last week. And the week before that, to help the Bucs, they beat the Falcons in overtime. Like they've done really well at coming back and winning games. So it's one of those things where, hey, you gotta bring your A game. You gotta be on top of everything. Because if not, you're going to possibly find a way to lose this game, and you can't do that. You can't. Let's see what else we got from you guys. Busy nights, and I appreciate you guys. Jared says, I believe Baker can do it, but it's not just him. We have a complete offense right now. We're only one dominant OLB and inside linebacker, as well as another cornerback from being the total package on both sides of the ball. Yeah, there's a couple of guys in the draft, and I'll give those names later on in the show that I really like at edge rusher that are being talked about as, first round prospects that could be right around where the Bucs are. I'm not going too deep, but I'll give you the names if you want to watch some tape and check them out. You can definitely look at that. McMillan will have 2 touchdowns on Sunday night. Virgin Boys is calling it. Stank in the building from the UK. says, woohoo, go Bucs. Jared says Dennis and ILB Diaby and McCollum. And yeah, there's going to be some money. The Bucs are going to have some money this season. They got to re-sign Godwin, which is likely going to happen. I don't see that not happening. And then they've got some money. They can do some simple restructures with Antoine Winfield Jr. and Tristan Wirfs contract, and open up some more cap. They can be flush in cap space if they want to. And I think this is going to be the offseason they do spend, because I don't think you have a roster, especially if Liam stays. And we'll get into that too. I do want to get into that too, after we kind of get done talking about the playoffs. If Liam stays, I think this is a year that Jason says, all right, we've got a team, let's put some money into it. And again, you kind of look at it. It's not like they didn't want to put money into it. You look at Todd Bowles when he first started his tenure. He gets the job in like March or April or something like that. Like they've already signed everyone back that Tom wanted. Tom had already retired and unretired, and they brought all the people back. And then Tom retires for real the next year. Bowles doesn't get to pick his staff. He just kind of takes over and has to inherit a team that's already, Bruce's team pretty much. And Bruce is still hanging around in the building. And the next year, Tom goes, but now you got a huge dead cap hit from Tom. So good luck with that. You got the dead cap hit coming in for Jensen and everything like that. So good luck. You got to, you go bargain basement shopping and you try to find some pieces. You don't really find much. Ryan Neal, who's back with the team, you didn't find much bargain basement shopping last season. You got some good undrafted free agent steals, Christian Izzian, Rock Jarrett. You got some good finds there, but you didn't really find much as far as impact players. And then this year you got to re-sign everybody, so you're dealing with dead cap hit coming into it already, whatever. And then you got to re-sign everybody, which doesn't leave money left. You bring back Jonah Whitehead, who's your marquee free agent signing, and then Ben Bredesen, who's been really good on the offensive line. A couple other pieces here and there, but this is the year I think, okay, books are back in order, right? There's a little bit of dead money still lingering from, I think, Shaq and Jensen and a couple other moves, but you're in pretty good cap shape. Let's spend some money. Let's go after it. Who do we want? Like, who do you like? What's going to put our team, and especially if Bowles is still here, Todd, thanks for bearing with us. We finally have some money. What pieces, who out there, not just like pick whoever you want, but who out there would fit this defense for you? What free agents are you looking at? And let him bring in a real free agent or two, to improve his defense. So, I feel like Todd never got a fair shake. You saw steady progress. Management sometimes is mind-boggling. Like, what are you doing? And there's some things where his defense is like, what are we doing here? We're getting too complicated. Last week, there was a play with Yaya and Anthony Nelson lined up on the right side with Villa and Kalijah on the left side. And then Levante shaded outside of Diaby. The ball was snapped. There goes Levante in the backfield. And then Diaby and Anthony Nelson dropped back in coverage. And it was a great throw by Spencer Rattler. He threaded the needle in between them. But, sometimes you're like, we're doing too much. Why are we rushing Levante instead of Diaby? So it's like there's some things. But for the most part, really good coach. Players respond to him. It's the second time in a row in 2 seasons they've gone through a lull that he's got them out of and brought them, they don't quit on him. They don't lose faith in him. And, I know there's a lot of people who are upset with Todd and wishy-washy and this and that and want Liam. And again, I don't think the Bucs should let Liam escape this building for anything. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how that plays out. But again, like I said, if everything works out the way I think the Bucs want it to work out, then this is a year they could definitely start spending. I'm going to get some more of those comments, and I'll get some injury report and some other things. I appreciate y'all in here. Super active today. I really love that. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, turning on notifications, hit that like button, tell a friend, send the podcast. We got about 30 more minutes. Send it to someone else if they haven't watched it before. But let's shout out one of our sponsors here, Fango Tickets. I want to give a shout out to Tampa Bay Bucs Cruise. Registration is done. But man, they were awesome to work with this season. I can't wait to work with them again next season. Can't wait to go on the cruise. I hope you guys have bought the tickets. Some of you, I look forward to seeing you guys on there. It's going to be so much fun. So a huge shout out to Tampa Bay Buccaneers Cruise for being our sponsor for almost all the regular season. Appreciate them. And Fango Tickets, another sponsor. They came mid-season, but really appreciate them. They are your number one source for live events in Tampa Bay. If you're tired of getting blitzed by big ticket companies, turn to Fango, your exclusively locally owned and operated Tampa Bay ticketing partner that offers fans like you full transparency. They prioritize fair pricing and no hidden fees so that Tampa fans can enjoy events without unexpected costs. Visit fangotickets.com for unbeatable prices, personalized seat selection, and local partnerships that will take your game day to the next level. Fango's doing something awesome. Go check out their web. If you guys are going to the game or want to go to the game and haven't bought tickets yet, go check them out because they their prices are cheaper than anybody. Cheaper than Game Time, cheaper than TickPick. I don't know if I can say those. Whatever I just did. I'm not monetized yet. Ticketmaster, all those things. Like they're way cheaper than anything. And they'll show you right now. They'll show you exactly what they're making, what the competitors are making, what the fees are, which are none. And how cheap it is to get in there. In addition to that, I believe, I don't know if anyone cashed in. Let me take a check, take a peek here. I don't think anyone cashed in, but if someone buys tickets, DMs them like a screenshot that they bought tickets, he's going to give you 2 free tickets to any Bolts game this season. So check that out too. No one's cashing on that. If you want tickets, buy tickets. Buy them from Fango. Again, they're doing some awesome partnerships and deals and stuff like that with local restaurants, parking, everything, all included. You just buy it all at one time, and you're hooked up. Check out Fango Tickets, number one source for live events in Tampa Bay, for sure. So let's get back into some of this. These comments. I see some questions. I see Edge Rusher. I see Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Virgin Boys. I see Slim saying, would you trade for Max Crosby? I see some other people talking about Myles Garrett. Yes, in a freaking heartbeat, yes. I think the Bucs have the cap space. Garrett's 29. I think Crosby's 28 or 29 too. Yeah, absolutely. Both of those guys would be huge. There's a game plan guys. That's what the Bucs need, is a game plan guy. And there are a few of them in the draft that could develop in the draft, I think. But they need a game plan guy, and they need someone who can either just take over a game, or if they're going to stick to the draft, I think they need speed. They just need speed on the edge. Someone who can bend and turn the corner and use speed to get there. They've got power rushers and They got power rusher and Chris Braswell. You know, they had a speed rusher in Shaq, but I mean, you know, he's going to get kind of rolled out slowly, and he's not the same player as he once was when he was much younger. So, you know, they need a guy who can just game plan. And I mean, that's a question, right? I'll pose this. Would you trade a first and second round pick for Max Crosby or for Myles Garrett? Do you think the Bucs are an edge rusher away? Because yeah, Jamel Dean, he's been injured and banged up the last couple of years, but I mean, he's still a really good cornerback when he's out there. And you have him for one more year on a really cheap contract. Like, you ain't getting a starting corner like Jamel Dean for $13 million. That's not happening. Would you trade away a first round pick? Would you? You know, is that something that you guys would do? But I do think edge rusher should be the number one priority for them this offseason, whether that's draft, free agency, trade, whatever they're going to do. There should be a few guys who are available or who will make themselves available, I should say. So we'll see. But yes, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, either one of those guys, sign me up for. I think either one would be really good addition. I know some people say Josh Sweat. It's kind of fallen off a little bit. I don't know if he's a game plan type guy. He could definitely help this team, but I don't think he's a guy that you pay that amount of money to not be a game wrecker, and that's just not what he is at this point anymore. So, yeah, I'm all in on Max Crosby or Myles Garrett for sure. Berger says, so what are your thoughts on promoting Liam to assistant head coach with a promise to be Bull's successor? Let's get into that now, because that's been a hot topic the last couple days here, last couple weeks here, really, with Liam just playing out of control. He looks like he's playing Madden, man. That's what it looks like. He's dialing up these plays. He's dialing up these calls that are just hitting. And it looks like it's just everything's easy for the most part. When everything's moving, obviously there's some moments at the beginning of the game, but when everything's moving, it just feels like he's playing Madden out there. He's just going through the playbook and calling the right things and getting people out of bounds. So Cohen's going to be a hot commodity. He's already been asked by the Jags. I'm sure he's going to get asked by the Raiders. I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots asked as well. The question is, does he leave? And it's not just Cohen either. GMs are in hot commodity too. Assistant GMs, Mike Greenberg, he's got an interview with the Jets. Spytek got an interview with the Titans. I'm sure there'll be more for both of those guys as well. And with one of those guys potentially becoming a head coach, and it looks like Brian Shanahan's going to be safe in Tennessee for now, but there's an opening at head coach for the Jets too. Would Greenberg want to bring in a guy like Liam Coen? Would Coen find that situation attractive? They've got some pieces on the offensive line. Breece Hall. They've got some good wide receivers there. Garrett Wilson, obviously one of the top wide receivers when he doesn't have an old aging quarterback who can't do it anymore, throw him the ball. They've got some pieces on defense for sure. Some edge rushers. Obviously his defensive line. So, they've got some good pieces around that team. Ownership's always going to suck until Woody Johnson's not there anymore. But is that a place Liam could go? Or we saw someone else get some looks last season. Does Greenberg, who's been with him for the last 5 years, think that Thad Lewis is ready? Does he think Thad Lewis would do a good job as a head coach? Skipping the offensive coordinator, just jumping to the head coach. That's something. I don't know if it's as likely. But you never know. Or maybe an offensive coordinator. I'm sure that will. He got some looks last year. Maybe he gets some looks this year. Spytek, I think, would be a really cool fit in Tennessee. You don't want to lose either of those guys. And then you also have the problem too is, all right, well, anyone who takes a GM or head coaching is going to take people from this Buccaneers organization on their staff. How close is Greenberg to Jackie Davidson? They're pretty close. They work on contracts all the time. Does he take her to be her assistant GM, or does Jason say, "Hey, you stay here, you'll be assistant GM"? Both of these guys want to run their own franchise, and you can't blame them. It's not like they don't want to. They both want to, and they both are more than deserving from what they've done. So it would be a tough loss, but Liam Coen, I think the GMs would, losing those guys would be a tough break for Light. Light does a lot, but he also depends on those three people specifically, and Mike Beal a lot. Like those are for his right hand men and women. And if you were to lose any of those guys, that would be a huge blow for this organization and for Jason Light. Coen is a different story. I don't, again, right? Rhode Island boy, played at UMass. Patriots have an opening. Big Tom Brady fan. Wore number 12 at UMass because of Brady. Raiders have an opening. He's already been requested by the Jags. I just don't see a fit this season. I don't see a fit. Maybe I think if I'm looking at things, the Bears or the Jags might attract me the most. Just because there's quarterbacks in place, there's decent, pieces there, wide receiver, offensive line pieces, some pieces on defense. I think the Patriots, they've got Drake May, yeah, but they need help everywhere. Defense has got some solid pieces. You need to reinforce some areas. But they need help at wide receiver. They need desperate help at offensive line. They're flush with cap space, so they can make a lot of moves. They've got the 4th overall draft pick because they don't know how to lose to the Bills in a meaningless game before their head coach gets fired. I'm not salty about that. But, I just don't think it sounds good on paper and everything like that. Like, knowing the boy goes home to be the head coach, lives out his dream. I just don't think it fits. I don't think Oakland or Las Vegas fits. They got Brock Bowers, man, and that's about it. They don't have they've got some pieces on offense that you can work with on the offensive line, but they don't have running backs. Jacoby Myers is like a good number 3 wide receiver, fringe number 2 type guy. You know, I just don't see it. Their defense needs a lot of work. There's a lot that needs to go on in that scenario over there. Again, the Jets, maybe you've got some pieces there. I don't know. Bears makes sense because they've got some pieces, but I think the most logical situation is Liam sticks around. And whether that comes with a pay raise, which I think it should, or as Berger mentioned, JP PJB 813, as he mentioned, that was to you, potentially an assistant head coach title. And with that, it would allow Liam to take on more, right? And I don't know about a succession plan. We did talk to Bowles earlier this season. He's like, I don't want to coach forever. He's closer to the end than the beginning. So, I mean, I don't know how many years Bowles have left. If the Bucs win the Super Bowl, maybe he rides off in the sunset. I don't know, just if they do, but I don't think he's got many years left wanting to coach. I know he wants to spend time with his family. His kids are all growing up and playing college of their own. His son, I just transferred from Georgia to FSU. So yeah, I don't know if that's I don't know what the timeline is there. I don't know if successor's there, but at least with that assistant head coach title, he's going to start to probably get more responsibilities as far as, okay, you're the offensive coordinator. I'm a defensive coordinator. This is what we have to do in addition, maybe get some more additional responsibilities to get him prepared for a head coach. You never, he said it, do you think you're ready? He said, you're never ready until you're ready. And, he feels like he's ready, but I think he sticks around. If I had to put money on it, if I had to put something that I love, that my dad's Tim Thomas jersey right there, that I got when he passed away, that I gifted him. It's back home. But if I had to put that on the line, I wouldn't. That's how strongly I feel like he's going to stay. I don't see him going anywhere. Assistant head coach, pay raise. Let's call it a day. The GMs, though, I'm not sure. Greeny and Spytek, I don't know. I think both those guys could leave, and that's going to be interesting to see what they do. We'll see if the drafts start to fall off a little bit. Contracts start to come up a little bit. We'll see. But yeah, let's jump back into these comments because you guys are talking about all sorts of stuff. I appreciate Miles Garrett, Max Crosby. You guys are saying I'll take that trade in a heartbeat. First round, second round. Jared says he'd do it, but he doesn't think Light would do it. Light won't give up too much in the draft, but I wish they would give in for a real pass rusher. Bucs fan says what scares me about this game is Jaden with the ball with under 2 minutes for the win. Can Bowles defense stop him? Great question. And I don't know. The Bucs defense has been really good in the fourth quarter. They've been really good in the second half. So, if you look at the Bucs as a whole for the season, no. No, I don't feel good about that. But if you look at what they've done the last couple weeks, and I talked to Jamel today, he looks like sounds like he's going to play. Winfield's going to likely play. They're getting two members of their starting secondary back, which is going to be huge for them in this game. I think they can. I think they can. And I think that's a big reason why I like the Bucs this weekend. Because again, I do see both of these teams as very evenly matched. I don't think one holds, a large amount of weight over the other one. They're right here. The Bucs, I think, might be a little bit better as far as, some of the play that they've received. Tristan Wirfs, no one on that offensive line is better than Tristan Wirfs. Running back, I'd take Bucky and Rashad over Robinson and Eckler. Wide receiver, again, outside of Terry McLaurin, they haven't really had anyone step up. De'Ami Brown has done some things. I'm taking K-Dot. On offense, I'm taking defense. Love Frankie Louvu. Frankie Louvu next to Levante would have been nice. Even Bobby Wagner next to Levante. But we've gotten much better play out of their linebackers too. They'll still get beat over the middle field here and there, but it's not like it was. I think this team has settled in and they kind of know what to do, and you just want to see it happen faster, right? That's what I was talking about earlier. Just faster. All right, let's not wait to the last second quarter of the game. Let's figure this out now and keep that going the whole way through. Play a complete game on defense. And I think if they can do that, then they're going to come up victorious and move on. And they can continue to do that as well. Continue to be victorious as well as they go. Jared says we need to keep Liam either way, but I think he'll stay for at least 1 year, pay the man to make him the succession plan to Todd. Please keep Greenberg as well, like goes to president. I think that's something that they should have done a while ago. I think that's something they should have done a while ago and had like go to president and either Spire, Greenberg take GM, the other one take assistant GM, and make Jackie assistant GM too. Give him some more, and the Glazers, unless you're a Man U fan, the Glazers put a lot of money into their staff. Like those guys have gotten pay raises, new titles, etc. Like they will pay to keep guys around. Obviously, a lot of Bucs players, they've been paid the last couple of years. Can't think of an offseason in the last couple of years the Bucs haven't paid someone to stick around, and they're going to have some guys this year too, not just Chris Godwin, but impending guys, Cade Otton, Rashad White, Zion McCollum, Luke Gedeke, all those guys are free agents. Logan Hall, they're all free agents after next season. Obviously Luke Gedeke I think is probably the most important, but Cade Otton stepped up into a tight end one, top 15 tight end in the league this year. Rashad White, again, I mean, he is still in over 1,000 yards all from scrimmage. Like people are like, oh, Bucky's something, but like they forget, like, again, a couple of those plays, if Rashad's not in there pass blocking this, the Bucs don't win this game and they don't go. Evans doesn't get 1,000 yards and they don't win the NFC South. And he can do a little bit of everything. So like, what's that contract look like? Do you wait and let these guys test free agency? Maybe in the case of a guy like Rashad, you do. But what about Zion? Do you let Zion? Do you want to see him prove it again? I think Luke gets locked up. I think Cade, you could probably lock him up. But Zion, Rashad, Logan Hall, who's had 5.5 sacks this year, done a lot of good stuff. Who knows? Yeah. Baker's making these OCs look good. I said that to Baker today. I don't know if you guys watched the presser, but I was like, "You the new OC whisperer, getting guys jobs left and right." He chimed back. He's like, "I don't know. I've had a lot of bad OCs too." He's had so many offensive coordinators in his career. It's crazy. But yeah. So let me just get into the injury report because we are up against it, and I want to get that out for you because I did tease it a little bit early on. Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore might just be happening. Marshawn Lattimore was traded over at the deadline to the Washington Commanders. Hasn't really played. I think he may have played one game, but had a hamstring injury. Was a full participant at practice today. Full participant. Mike Evans was limited with rest day. It was a rest day for him. But that should be a fun matchup. The Washington Commanders have been really interesting because when you look at their defense, their passing defense, they're the 4th best in the league, only allowing 185 yards per game, only allowing 24 touchdowns in the season. But there's been instances where like you can exploit them, and they I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a point. Maybe it's their opponents, but I think there's a way for the Bucs to exploit them. But having Marshawn Lattimore back adds another layer to that depth there as well that they have that they can lean on. And someone who has extensive history with Mike Evans. We talked to Coach Bowles today. He's someone I think Rick Stroud asked him, is there any importance to talk to Mike beforehand if Marshawn Lattimore is back? And Todd was like, Mike knows what he's doing here. At this point, he's a pro. He understands what's at stake. He understands the game. Nothing really needs to be said about that. They're both great players that like to compete. And they need to compete on the clean side because if things go off the rails, then things are going to go off the rails. But wow, the Commanders have been really good against the pass this season. So it's going to present a good test for the Bucs, who have been really good passing the ball. 3rd best. So you've got the 3rd best passing offense versus the 4th best passing defense. Fortunately for the Bucs, their run defense, Commanders' run defense has been really bad. 29th The Bucs have had the 10th best, and that's come a long way since the last couple of weeks. They were down much better, but again, some of those weaknesses you can look at. For the Bucs, though, mostly healthy or trending that way. The big guys, there's some guys on here, like Devin Culp was full with rib injury, but like the big names, the ones we're looking for, Jamel Dean, limited with a knee injury, coming back from missing some games. K. Dotton, limited with a knee injury. Antoine Winfield, full participation, huge, full participation with a knee injury, trending the right way. It looks like the Bucs are trending to be almost fully healthy for this game. Logan Hall didn't practice today with a groin. I saw him in the locker room. He looked fine and it wasn't limping or anything like that. So that might just be some precautionary thing. Same thing with Levante with a knee. Just kind of, it's a walkthrough today anyways. So it's just an estimation. They're not out there. No one's running around in pads, but it's just a walkthrough. So I think he'll be fine. But yeah, Marshawn Lattimore, full participation. Him and Mike Evans, that should be interesting. Zach Ertz got a rest day for the Commanders. He's been on a tear. Same thing with Dante Fowler, Telly McLaurin. All those guys got rest days today. The one that Clelin Ferrell too, former Raiders bust, who's had some success over there. He's rested today too. So it looks like they're pretty much everyone who's healthy for them is healthy for them. So it should be two pretty healthy teams going into this matchup on Sunday night. Should be a lot of fun. And again, we'll get into that matchup a little bit more in depth here later in the week as we preview our opponent here behind enemy lines. With that said, I'm going to give you a couple names in the draft that I like so far. James Pierce Jr., edge rusher from Tennessee. He's jumped out to me, as well as Mike Green from Marshall. He's another edge rusher, just edge rushers. And Kyle Kennard, I believe he's from, I'll say he's from Rutgers. I could be wrong. South Carolina. He's with the Gamecocks. Those three guys, if you're interested, if you're itching for some draft content, because the Senior Bowl looks like it's going to be awesome. I'm glad they let underclassmen come now because it's just going to be such good competition. If you're looking so far and you kind of want to look towards the draft, keep an eye towards the draft and see what guys to look out for. Those three guys have impressed me. Again, they're more speed rushers and power rushers. They should be around there between that, early 20s into early 30s. Jihad Campbell, he's another guy I like, linebacker from Alabama. I think he's a good player too. I think the Bucs defense is this draft's priority. You need to come out of here. If you don't get an edge or a cornerback in free agency, most likely an edge in free agency, you're going to come out of here with some defensive tackle depth. You're going to come out of here with an inside linebacker for sure, probably corner safety. And then you think you can dabble, maybe get in a guard or maybe get a swing tackle to groom, something like that. Wide receiver later in the round, something like that. So, but yeah, I think those are three guys I would keep an eye on that I've identified so far that I would think would be good fits in this Bucs offense. Remember, I think I did 176 scouting reports last year. I think I got 3 hits on who I predicted the Bucs would take. So, and that 2024 draft, the 2021 draft, I predicted JTS and Kyle Trask. And I also got Rashad White, K. Dotton, and Logan Hall in that draft. So didn't hit any of the other draft. There was one draft I missed everything. But yeah, that being said, those are a couple of guys I like. So James Pierce Jr., Kyle Kennard, and Mike Green from Marshall. Check those guys out if you're into the draft and want to start looking at some college guys. Other than that, I want to give another shout out to our sponsor, Mosley Heating and Air. When Florida heat hits you hard, it's not right now. It's like 32 degrees, and it's going to be 40 at kickoff, so bundle up. Trust me. But when it is, and right now is a perfect time to get your system balanced and checked and make sure your heat's working. Trust Mosley Heating and Air to keep you cool and comfortable. With over 25 years of experience with their family-owned business, knows what it takes to keep your home's HVAC system running smoothly. Need a repair, new system, a maintenance plan? They've got you covered. Call Mosley Heating and Air today at 813-230-3742 or visit them online at mosleyheatingair.com. Mosley Heating and Air, where comfort meets reliability. Check them out. They're a great local sponsor. We love our local sponsors. Appreciate them. Love you guys. You guys are the best. I appreciate you. Before we get out of here, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, tell a friend, share it. You guys are awesome. Lots of comments in here today. I appreciate the love. I wish I could go longer and just get to every single one of them. I try to get as many people as I can. Ernie Earnhardt, I didn't shout you out. He says, run, Bucky, run. The O-line for the Bucs will dominate. I love that. Hopefully. Bryce says it's funny hearing people think we're losing because the Commanders have Lattimore, like we haven't beat the Saints despite Lattimore. Yeah, I mean, it's not so. I don't think people are saying they're losing. I just think it's going to be it's always fun when you get Evans matchup against Lattimore. So I appreciate everybody, though. We gotta run. That's gonna do it for us here at the Pirate Parlay Podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. I'm your host, JC Allen. Again, I appreciate everybody listening on the podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to it. Appreciate everyone here. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and we'll be back Friday with our behind the scenes, behind enemy lines episode. That's gonna do it for me. I'm out of here. Peace out. Have a good one.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Pirate Parlay on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.